Greetings, fellow action figure connoisseurs, and welcome to another episode of Digital Caveman Presents Star Wars Wednesday. I, as always, am your host, the Digital Caveman, and today I will be presenting you with Star Wars The Black Series, Krrsantan, the B.A. Wookiee from the Book of Boba Fett. Let's get into it! Let's start things off by ripping apart some scaly Trandos and take a look at the packaging. We'll skip the rendering of the Trandos for now. Here on the top, we've got a couple pieces of tape and a hook. On the front, Star Wars The Black Series and a nice digital render of Krrsantan. If I said that right, I don't know. I don't speak Wookiee. Star Wars The Book of Boba Fett on a stripe, and it continues around to this side at an upper angle and around to the back. And it does say Book of Boba Fett. Krrsantan, 4 and up, plastic free packaging, except tape and glue. Hasbro print. On the bottom, a barcode, small fine legalese made in China print, and symbols I'm not gonna learn. On this side, again, that stripe continuing around from the front at an upward angle and then around to the back. Star Wars The Black Series. Nice digital render of Krrsantan, and it tells you he's 6.9 inches. Oh no, in case you forgot from earlier, plastic free packaging. Except tape and glue. And recycle this stuff. On this side, some nice artwork of Krrsantan getting ready for some trouble. And then it says Krrsantan at the bottom. Star Wars The Black Series. Again, nice digital render. Same one as the front. Only it's a full-on shot. Krrsantan. A former gladiator turned deadly bounty hunter. Krrsantan is a towering black-furred Wookiee who made a name for himself in the criminal underworld with his intimidating presence and raw strength. Yeah. And there it is again in some other languages. He's 04 in Star Wars The Book of Boba Fett. Includes figure and accessories. Warning, attention, Octoon! Don't stick things in any language pie hole that do not belong there. Don't give it to babies. Small fine legalese made in China print, Disney print, and Hasbro print. That, my friends, is a look at the packaging, so those Trandos better look out now. Let's take a look at the figure and his accessories. And I do have handy dandy tweezers handy, but I don't think we'll need them for this. And here we go. First up, his only accessory is this huge blaster rifle. And I have to say, it is nicely detailed. It does have a little bit of paint here, unless this is a separate piece, but I don't think it is. I think this is a paint app on here, and then it's molded in the rest of this. But you know, all these scopes on the top, and I don't know, it looks pretty cool. Too bad you couldn't put some kind of blast effect there in the end of it. That would make it super cool. Except for the fact he can't hold it worth a crap. But we'll get to that. Now, as far as Krrsantan himself, I have to say the only major issue that I've had with this guy right off is he might not be as articulated as I want, and I wanted him to be just a little bit bigger. And we'll see how big he is when we get to comparisons. But anyway, I mean, look at all this dry brush that's going on in his fur. I mean, that's cool. And then he's got these gold pieces in there, and it's on the back too, so that's cool. Now this piece I'm pretty sure we have seen before with the previous Krrsantan release, which was the comic book version or the publishing program version, whatever you want to call it. And then there was a release of a Wookiee before that even, I think. Now this design might be different. I'm not sure. I don't have those other ones, so I can't tell you 100% for sure. But then, you know, he does. It's nicely detailed there, and I guess the buckle for the belt piece as well, and it looks to be molded in like this gold plastic. And then it does have this stripe of paint running all over it, and then it does have a little bit of dry brush on it as well, it appears. And even on the back they did that same paint app stuff. It's got a little pouch here, and then he's got those spiked knuckle dusters, and they're painted. And then he's got that dry brush all down his legs too. He's got a, looks like a Wookiee pelt right here that maybe he stole from some Trandos. I don't know. Now the dry brush is not on the back, except for on the headpiece. These braids do have some dry brush, and the back of the head does have the dry brush a little bit, but the back of the arms don't, the back of the torso doesn't, and the back of the legs doesn't as well. And then I don't know if this is the paint app. I'm assuming that it is molded in this color, and then the fur is painted. And then, I mean, the face looks pretty dead on for what Krrsantan looked like in the Book of Boba Fett. I mean, he's got those beady little eyes back up in there, and they catch shadow really, really well. So that's really good if you want to make him, you know, look menacing in some photography, which I'm sure he will. He looks menacing anyway. He looks the opposite of Chewbacca. Chewbacca looks kind of friendly. This guy does not look friendly at all. But let's take a look at his articulation. Because of all this sculpted hair detail, these move a bit, but this at the base here doesn't move at all. So he looks up barely. He can look down just a little bit. He's got a little bit of chicken neck. No waggle. Well, a little bit of waggle. But he can't really do the full exorcist. He can turn a little bit this way and a little bit that way. And that's about it. Now, at the shoulders, it is hindered a bit by this armor piece. He does have a butterfly joint in there, and it moves back that far and forward just a tad. It really doesn't move all that much. With that armor piece on, I can get his arm to move about that high, and then he can move his arm forward and back, and it really will go all the way around, but because of this armor piece it won't. Then single hinge and swivel for the elbow, swivels around 360 degrees and gives you not quite a 90-degree bend. 360-degree rotation at the wrist, and this one is on an up and down hinge. This one is on an in and out hinge. Now, like most Wookiees, the torso has the cut. Well, most Black Series figures anyway. But I think he also has a cut at the waist as well. And I would be wrong, because it does not want to twist there at all. So I'm wrong. He just has this one cut in the abdomen, like most Black Series figures. But he does have plenty of hula in there. It's on like the half dumbbell or whatever. So he can lean left and right. He can bend back about that far. And on that hinge, he can bend forward about that far. And then he also will rotate a full 360 degrees there. Again, nothing at the waist, which is a shame. I really wish he would have had waist articulation as well. But that's on most Black Series figures. At the hips, he gives you that much of the splits, which is pretty much the full splits, so that's pretty good range for this big character. And then he kicks forward that far, so that's pretty good. And he kicks back. Wow, that's great. And then we can see, you know, it does have, it looks like an extended peg for the dumbbell here, leading to a ball joint in the leg. And he doesn't have a cut here, but because of that ball joint, he does have a little bit of twist movement there. Single hinge and swivel at the knee. Swivels around 360 degrees, and it gives you not quite 90 degrees worth of bend at the ankle. Tilts down about that far. Tilts up about that far. And he does have a forward-facing pin for rocker, but because of all this hair, it doesn't, you know, it won't tilt back much, and it doesn't go forward much, and it doesn't rock much as well. Now, as far as his gun goes, he just doesn't hold it very well. I want to put it in his right hand because I'm right-handed, but even though he has a trigger finger here, the trigger finger here looks much more prominent. So, and as far as holding it by the handle, he does okay with that. Not that he really needs trigger fingers on this gun because there's, you know, the trigger guard is really big. But where the problem, at least for me, comes in is when he's trying to hold it in a rifle position. So that's a little more difficult for me. And it may just be because I was using the wrong hand. I ain't gonna lie. I am not perfect. So he can hold it like this, although again, that's really to me not the greatest rifle holding pose. I mean, who shoots a rifle like that? So I don't know, maybe I can work with it and get it better, but I don't think so. It's just, it's too long, and he doesn't articulate well enough to hold it properly. At least properly according to me. That's, you know, your mileage of course may vary. That does it, my friends, for a look at the figure and his accessory. It's time for my favorite part of a review, comparisons. And here we have Star Wars The Black Series, Book of Boba Fett, Krrsantan, next to Star Wars The Black Series, the very first issue Black Series, Chewbacca. I do believe that is. I don't think I've bought another one since then. And another large alien character from Rebels, Black Series, Zeb Orrelios. Here we have Star Wars The Black Series, Book of Boba Fett, Krrsantan, with Star Wars The Black Series, Book of Boba Fett, Boba Fett, and Star Wars The Black Series, The Mandalorian Light Cruiser, Luke Skywalker, with a custom robe. Or cloak, I guess I should say, custom cloak. For our final set of comparisons, here we have Star Wars The Black Series, Book of Boba Fett, Krrsantan, with from the Marvel Legends series making his cameo appearance, Stan the Man Lee, from the G.I. Joe Classified series, the Hasbro Pulse exclusive Regal variant Cobra Commander. Our final Black Series comparison, the Archive Edition 501st Legion Clone Trooper. And for a 7-inch scale comparison from the Masters of the Universe Masterverse line, the 40th Anniversary He-Man. For final thoughts on Star Wars The Black Series, Book of Boba Fett, Krrsantan, I have to say, overall, I really like the look of this character, or this figure. There are a few drawbacks to it because of the sculpted hair, of course. You know, it does limit the head and neck articulation. The armor on his shoulders does hamper the range of movement in his shoulders. And the rifle that he comes with looks fantastic, but it's really hard to work with this figure. And, you know, again, overall, I give high marks to this guy. It's well sculpted, and it's well painted, and lots of dry brush, at least on the front, not as much on the back. A little bit of paint up on the weapon. The armor, front and back, has some paint and dry brush on it, and again, it looks really, really good. And I think the worst drawback I have of this figure, he's just not tall enough. Chewbacca, as you saw in the comparison part of the video, Chewbacca is much taller than Krrsantan, and I just, from what I got in Book of Boba Fett, it just felt like he should be at least the same height as Chewbacca. And it may just be because I haven't updated Chewbacca since his original Black Series release. I just kind of feel like that one fills all the roles, except of course maybe Return of the Jedi, and at some point I may get the chained version of Chewbacca from the 40th anniversary line, but I'm really hoping that they will give us that Chewbacca with the parted hair, Return of the Jedi look without the chained collar. And I would much rather go for that than both of them. But again, if I find it for the right price, I may go for that with the chain around his neck. And because it's not a bad looking Chewbacca, it's actually a pretty good looking Chewbacca. But we're not talking about Chewbacca, we're talking about Krrsantan, and I keep wanting to call him Black Krrsantan because that's what he was called in his original appearances in the comic book. I understand why for the TV show they didn't want to go with that particular moniker, because it may incur racial connotations or whatever. But, you know, he's a Wookiee. The color of his fur is black. His name is Krrsantan. So, or maybe just in Book of Boba Fett, that's a name he's trying to get away from since he's no longer in his arena fights or whatever. I don't know. They really didn't go into it much, and I really haven't read a lot of the modern Marvel run of Star Wars, so there just could be something I'm missing. Of course, it might not be either. But as far as the figure goes, if you like Wookiees, if you liked the character in Book of Boba Fett, and I know I'm going out on a limb here, and you know, I like the character, and I like that they used him in live action, and not necessarily to say that I'm in love with the Book of Boba Fett, because I'm not. There were a lot of issues with that show, but as far as the figures go, I think they've been pretty good, except for the Tamora Morrison unlikeness on Boba Fett. I don't think they got very close to that, and it may not be the sculpt, it may just be the way it's painted. I'm not sure. But anyway, no matter what you feel about the Book of Boba Fett, this guy is worth a look. At least the figure is worth a look. It's really, you know, it's painted up right. It's sculpted good. It has decent articulation. The gun is a bit, I don't know, it's clunky, I guess, and it doesn't work well with the figure. But that's just my opinion. Your mileage, of course, may vary. Well, that does it for the review. I hope that you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. Only support from viewers like you make this programming possible. Each view does count, and I do appreciate each and every single view that I receive. Thank you, and thank you so very, very much for supporting this channel through viewing. Comment below, like, share, subscribe if you'd like to see more reviews or just help the channel out further. Or both, that's even better. And don't forget to ding that bell so that in the future you will be notified as my new content becomes available. That's a wrap, folks. I'll see you next time.